I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't hear. Yeah, my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't hear.
Hey guys, so I'm just jumping on quickly to deal with some new body cam that has come out on Gabby Petito, the Gabby Petito case. It just shows an officer heading to the laundry home trying to get information. We're going to go to that right now. It comes from, I've certainly found it on Fox News. There are actually two sources of it, two body cam episodes, if you will. One is about 7 minutes, and then there's another one, I think, when they come out the house to move the vehicle as well. I'm not quite sure how long that one is. But anyway, we're going to go to that right now, and let's listen in. You can see the date is the 11th of September, 2021, about 9:45 at night, 10:45. Here's the van.
Northport Police Department.
Yes.
Hi, there, sir. I apologize for bothering you. I have the detective on the phone.
I'm not talking to anybody.
You don't want to talk to us? Is okay? She's on the phone. You don't want to talk to her now?
So what's already apparent is they just say Northport Police Department, nothing else, and then the response is, "I don't want to talk to you." He doesn't say what it's about. He doesn't ask what is it about. Just says Northport Police Department, and then I don't want to talk to you. Right? Let's continue.
Okay. It's when was the last time that you saw Brian and Gabriel?
Well,
Gabrielle.
Brian's here.
Brian is here.
Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say.
That's all I'm going to
That's all
say.
you're saying.
Yeah, we have an attorney. They've been calling. I don't know. That's all I want to say. I don't know why so many attorneys are aware
Okay.
they're calling. So I can give you his number.
Whose number? The attorney's number?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like that, please, so I can give it to the detective. Thank you.
So this was around 2 weeks after Gabby disappeared at the end of August in the Grand Tetons.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
And just to let the detective know, is Gabriel here? Or?
No.
She's not here. Okay.
The fellow was here last night.
Yeah. Okay. So is this her vehicle? Her van?
It's both of them.
Is both of them? Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now the officer is about to check whether that information is true. Does it belong to both of them? What do you think the answer is?
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting
And
also that
and it's all on my body.
the parents don't correct the guy's name, the name that he gives them. He doesn't say Gabby. They don't correct him.
I'm going to notify.
Hey, love, Tina, good to see you.
They said that Gabriel's not here. That's all they're saying. That his son is here, but Gabriel's not. And they're not talking. And then he said that they're tired of being harassed or being called. That by the family. Okay, and his name is Steven Bertolino. That's the attorney's number. And his office number. And his cell phone is.
You see the mask hanging there from the roof. This was still.
Is there anything on my part
in the middle of Corona, right?
Do you need me to notify my detective bureau? Yes. Okay.
what information I have here, her parents last physically heard from her on August 27th, and they were supposedly out in Wyoming. His sister now just told me another story about that he left her out there and flew home, and yet you're seeing the van in their driveway, and they won't tell you where she is.
So, did you guys catch that? The information from the police was that Brian's sister said that he left her there. So she's got a totally different story. And then also the parents are saying, as far as they're concerned, that van belongs to Gabby. And I think they would also then say it's in Gabby's name. That's also something that the laundries either are misinformed about or have given the wrong information about or have been dishonest about. Let's continue.
Yeah, and I asked him right now in front of you, who does that van belong to, and he says both of them.
Yeah, it's
Ellie.
registered to her, and her family feels that it's hers. So I don't know how it works out there. And her phone's been off now for 10 days, and there's been no contact with her whatsoever. So I don't know if that van's a crime scene. How did it return there? If he supposedly flew home, there's definitely some issues going on.
Okay, you have the tag on the.
Put them in touch with me.
You have the tag on
Maybe
the.
notify a supervisor too. I don't know how it works.
Yes,
for
I
you
will.
guys out there.
I'll definitely notify supervisor on this. The tag is Queen Frank Tom Golf 03.
Yes, that's what I have on my missing person report, because they were supposedly on this road trip in that van.
Police department. Is it Chris? Chris, this is Sergeant Selzer with the police department.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I hate to bother you. I know you've already said you don't want to speak or don't want to help us. I'm trying to figure out something for parents. You guys as parents, all they want is their daughter to know that she's
He's
safe.
appealing to their humanity.
So I don't know where it all started before. I don't know what's transpired. I don't know anything about that. I'm here to know if you guys know anything. It would let the parents at ease and go from there.
Well, we don't know anything.
Okay.
So,
I mean, anything that you guys would be able to give them is any type of help. Last time your son saw her, anything like that. Am I able to talk to your son? The other officer said
he's not going to talk to anyone.
Okay.
We're not going to talk to anyone.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna lay it out for you if you want. The New York detectives are a little pissed, and they want me to do a whole bunch of things that I'm trying to
Well,
avoid.
then you have to do what you got to do, and we're not going to.
Okay. I mean, as a parent, you wouldn't want to know where it happened
I
with yours.
understand what you're saying. But
I mean, it makes it very odd, don't you think? From my point of view.
Yeah.
Chris.
right, for now, you couldn't call our attorney and give your phone number.
I don't have your attorney, and an attorney's not going to answer at 10,
No,
11
no,
o'clock at
no,
night.
I'm not speaking to anybody.
Yeah, we're not comfortable
Without
talking
an
to anybody.
attorney, so that's that.
Okay. So the van is only registered to her. Okay.
Well,
So did you catch that? He said, I'm not speaking to anyone, and that's that, right? Pretty clear. And then the officer actually gets a little indignant, understandably, and he says, well, the van doesn't belong to you, to them, to him. It belongs to her, so we're going to move it. Is that all right?
I'm not really sure.
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm telling you. The
Okay.
title on the state of Florida is it's only hers.
Okay.
So it's not supposed to be here.
Okay,
So I'm going to take a tow truck and get it. Is a car in the way?
it's my car, I can move it.
I mean, so you don't have any issue with us taking the van?
If that's what you're saying you got to do, you got to do.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm not speaking to anyone.
You're without our attorney. But
Okay.
I can move the car for you.
You don't find that odd that you guys
Good
really?
night. Good night.
Okay.
Don't knock on my door. And,
Okay. Are you going to move the car?
I'll move it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the first section of the body cam, and the officer's quite right to say, you don't think you're behaving a little oddly? And yeah, they were. It was very strange, right? So we're going to go to the next body cam, and this is, I think, dealing with them. I think it is dealing with them moving the vehicle. I'm not 100% sure. Let's just go to that. Okay, so I've actually been right there. I've actually driven to Northport. I've stood right in front of that house, driven by it a couple of times. I was actually there in a white Mustang, and then I drove from there to the same park where Brian Laundrie eventually was found, his bones, right? His notepad and paraphernalia. Actually, I didn't do it intentionally. I didn't hire a Mustang intentionally, but I only realized afterwards that that was how they knew Brian was there, because at that time they had a Mustang and the Mustang was parked there. So the crazy thing was, when I was there, I kind of got quite lost. I was just going on memory and trying to remember what I'd covered in my coverage of it, and I actually got seriously lost in that park. So that's something I can show you guys. I mean, I did take photos and video when I was there. I can share that with you guys if you want me to. Not going to do it now though, but it's something we can deal with now. Something that I think is very easy to kind of lose sight of, and obviously it is like 50-50. If you look at this picture, yeah, you have the parents basically saying, no, we're not going to talk to you. And you might say they were acting in the interests of their son. They were loving parents and they were acting in the interests of their son, right? They may even say that. But if you think about it in retrospect, what if they had decided, you know what, maybe Brian does need to speak for himself. Maybe Brian does need to be accountable. Maybe Brian does need to explain himself, right? They could have actually saved his son's life. And what I mean is, if Brian had dealt with the situation in whatever way, but if he had dealt with it, and if he had, if the real situation as it was allowed to kind of play out. Okay, you know what happened to Gabby. You, my son, you need to deal with this like as an adult. Would Brian still be alive today? And you might say, I'm happy that he's not alive. I'm just saying, from their own perspective, wouldn't it have been better for them and for him? I'm talking about it from their interest, to have said, you know what, we want you to talk to the police. And Brian may have said, I don't want to talk to the police. But what you have here is the parents essentially creating a barrier, right, between the police and Brian, and I guess lawyering up. So it's just an interesting thought that if the parents had kind of done the right thing, and I don't even think it's air quotes, they could have saved Brian's life, right? One wonders what they think about it today. I want to go through just a couple of photos that I just quickly put together of Gabby, and just quickly comment on them, and then I'll kind of be done with. Sorry, just need to move this back because I need that tab. Sorry about that. Let's do that. So yeah, it's just it's a case that I covered pretty much from beginning to end, and this case touched me so much that it actually got me to actually travel to America. So I just want to talk about it a little bit longer beyond just the body cam. So there's Gabby with her father. That's kind of a younger version of Gabby, and we kind of got to know her on Instagram. She ended up making only that one single YouTube video, which does anyone know how many views it ended up getting? I think it was a channel called Nomadic Static, right? See how many views it's up to now. 179,000 followers. And just from one video, 7.3 million views, right? This was the channel. And you kind of got the feeling that Gabby worked on this channel while Brian had gone back home. She was in, I think, a hotel in Salt Lake City. I've actually also been to Salt Lake City. I've also been to the Salt Flats where they were. I really followed in her footsteps when I went to America the first time. There's Gabby with her father. And so they went all over America, Colorado, California, Wyoming, obviously. But they actually left ultimately from New York, and Brian came back down into Florida. That's one of the last pictures she posted. You can see a tattoo there on her arm. And I think it's easy to forget that at one stage they were star-crossed lovers. They were very happy. Gabby wanted to marry Brian. Brian wanted to marry Gabby. And I think that in a way made it this such a tragic story. Was if they had gotten married, probably a lot of stress would have been taken out of the whole relationship. But because they didn't get married and COVID was a big reason for that, I think there was also a bit of resistance possibly from Gabby's parents. But so they got engaged and they were going to get married, but then they couldn't get married. In a weird way, the whole van life trip was a kind of honeymoon. But I think that's when the relationship unraveled and they started arguing. And I think, especially with the social media, Brian got more and more insecure. And that, I think, made him angry. He felt like he was losing the best thing kind of in his life. And I think that made him into something of a monster. But one thinks if they did get married, wouldn't that sort of pressure situation have been taken out of the dynamic? So those are the familiar faces of the Petitos, right? That's the day that Gabby died, the 27th of August. That is in Jackson Hole, I believe. I've actually been to Jackson Hole as well. I never went to that particular supermarket. And that was the very last time that it was the last evidence of life from Gabby. If you look carefully at the footage, you can actually see Brian slamming the door of the van closed. So he was clearly extremely angry that day, and that anger led to murder later that day. You can't help thinking, why didn't Gabby just walk away? It was her van. Why didn't she just kick him out? Also, why did Brian do what he did? Like what ultimately set him off? But I feel that Gabby needed Brian. Like Gabby needed someone to photograph her. Gabby probably didn't want to travel by herself. And even though they weren't getting along that well, she was probably trying to make the most of the situation, which is understandable. But I think when I've traveled before as well, sometimes you need to cut your losses and say, you know what, we're not getting along. You go that way, I go this way. It's going to be very inconvenient. It's going to be expensive, etc. But it's really not worth, something worse happening. That's them is it the Whole Foods store? And I mean, this is literally the final footage we have of Gabby, and you can see, she's got her arms folded. Brian's got his hands dug into his pockets. It's quite interesting that he's almost in disguise here. He's sort of wearing a cap and glasses. One wonders what he was thinking at this point already. And when you see him, Brian kind of looks quite awkward. You do kind of get a sense that Gabby is totally out of his league, right? But they were both artists, and they did have that in common, at least with one another. And that's them just shopping around. They're basically shopping for food that would end up being Gabby's last meal on earth. It's quite a scary thought. And then this was Brian back in Southport, smiling, apparently no problem kind of going on. Just I'm back. I don't know where Gabby is, and his parents basically at his backing him up. Not quite sure what the date was of this, but it was close to the end. Yeah, and this was obviously early on in the trip when things were still going, I guess, quite well. My channel is, I think, one of the only channels that covered the Moab stop in like exhaustive detail, dealing with the body cam there, like literally in 10-second increments. And that it really did open up a lot in terms of you really got to know Gabby in so much detail, just the underlying emotions. But you couldn't help thinking someone saw Brian hit Gabby. We later saw an image of her face with blood on it. Someone actually saw Brian hit Gabby, called the police, and somehow the police ended up blaming Gabby. And it became Gabby saying, no, well, if anything, I hit him first. And it's just so unfortunate that you had that incredible moment for a tragedy to be averted, and it wasn't. I know that there was, I don't know if you guys know the answer here, wasn't there talk of a lawsuit against the Moab Police Department? Has that been dropped? Is that still in the offing? I've got to say, I don't actually know. I don't really know whether that's still happening. But you can't help thinking, well, this was a last chance for Gabby. If the police had simply just acted on what a witness saw, just gotten clear confirmation of what they saw and not paid so much attention to what she was saying, what he was saying, what was seen, a lot of this could have been averted. In other words, it could have been an intervention that could have set Brian right, had him cool his heels in a prison cell or something. But I think Gabby was terrified that this was this thing that they'd been dreaming about for so long. This was their fairy tale. This was something that they'd been wanting to do for so long, that they'd worked on the van. It was a dream. And if Brian was arrested and there was going to be a court appearance, well, she would have to go home, and that would be the end of that. That would be the end of this fairy tale. And what she didn't realize was that fairy tale was actually already over, and it was about to get even worse, into the worst possible nightmare. I mean, think about it. What is the worst possible nightmare? That the fairy tale is going to end permanently. She's going to die in the shadow of the Grand Tetons. I've actually been there. And then Brian's going to die as well. What could be a worse ending than that? And so it's definitely a story of, youth, beautiful, the beauty and liveliness and vitality of youth that is just almost incomprehensibly lost, wasted, and totally devastated. And all of this happened during the pandemic, when a lot of us were anxious in our own ways. You had something like this that was, in a way, even more horrifying than that, where people actually deliberately do this to someone else, right? And then, of course, there was this this movie that came out as well. I must admit, I've actually still not watched the entire thing. I know I watched a piece of it, and then I didn't go any further. But I remember when I did watch it, what really stood out to me was, you often see a photo of Gabby, a photo of Brian. What you forget is that someone had to take those photos, and most of the photos were of Gabby. And who was taking most of the photos of Gabby? Brian. And who would go onto Instagram and see the response to the photos that he was taking of Gabby? And Gabby was really beautiful, and Brian wasn't. And Gabby would also try and involve Brian in social media. In fact, I think Gabby even said at the Moab stop that that she was doing Brian's social media because he was just not interested in it. Why was he not interested in it? Because I don't think he was the kind of character that other people were charmed by. He wasn't particularly interesting, whereas she was. And I think he noticed that. And I think he noticed that in terms of social media, but I think he also noticed that traveling with Gabby, I think he noticed when he was traveling with her, the amount of interest that she would get from the people around him compared to the amount of interest he was getting, kind of thing. And I think this is really sort of weighing at him. So, yeah, I just really wanted to share that with you guys. I must say the Gabby Petito story is really close to my heart just because of the bravery and the courage of these young people, kind of as freelancers, going out into the world, trying to make it in social media. And they're kind of artistic people, and they're trying to, believe in themselves and all that kind of thing, and also believe in one another, and the struggle in terms of that. And then just how cruel the world can be. Sometimes it can be very, very cruel. Anyway, let's have a look at some of your comments, and then I'm going to jump off. Chelsea says they were wrong for each other, but I believe they loved each other a lot in the beginning. Now, that is often true of a lot of relationships with young people. You can love someone, and you can love someone really passionately and truly, but actually you're not really right for each other. And that's only going to sort of show itself over a period of time when you find out who you are and they find out who they are. The question is, can you face reality and sort of pull away from one another and then go your separate ways? Something that I've always wondered about with Gabby is, why was she with a guy like Brian? Why did she stay with a guy like Brian that wasn't treating her well? Did she have the confidence? And at the Moab stop, you kind of get the feeling that she didn't, that she was quite anxious, and perhaps she had some self-esteem issues. And you kind of got to wonder, where did that come from? Was that part of the sort of trauma of being in being someone with divorced parents? She seemed to actually be living more with Brian and his family than with her own family. And also, after the Moab step, why didn't she reach out to her mother? Why didn't she tell her mother what had happened? And that's also definitely kind of disappointing, that aspect. Mel says Gabby overshadowed Brian in every way. I also think, personally, I think Gabby was a much better artist than Brian. So, I think when someone invalidates you, it is very frustrating. And if it's someone you love, the person you love that's invalidating you, there's almost like no place to hide. I think Gabby was insecure, but if anything, Brian was even more insecure. Okay, that's definitely kicking that person off. Pauline Buckle says might have come from her parents divorcing. So before I leave, I just want to check whether there's one more little piece of body cam that I can share with you guys. Just have a look here. Yeah, I think we've seen it before.
Northport Police Department.
Yes.
Hi, sir. I apologize for bothering you. I have the detective on the phone.
I'm not talking to anybody.
You don't want to talk to us? Okay, she's on the phone. You don't want to talk to her now?
So the end of this whole thing is the Petitos sued the laundries, and we were all eagerly awaiting the case going to trial, and it was about to, and then they settled, and they settled out of court, and we don't really know the terms of that settlement, but one would assume that a certain sum of money was paid, and as a sort of restitution. So that's the end of that story. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for joining me on this. Did you guys know that Gabby owned the van? I mean, I suspected it, but I don't know if it had ever been confirmed. Did you guys know that for a fact that Gabby owned that van? I know that Brian did a lot of work on it. Brian sort of did the carpentry, and Brian was sort of the driver. But I seem to remember the assumption was that it was Gabby's van, but this is the first, as far as I'm concerned, the first official confirmation. But I mean, that also tells you something, that essentially Brian took Gabby's car. It's not his car. So not only did he take her life, he took her car as well. And then and you would imagine that would make her parents very concerned. I mean, where's Gabby if she's not in her own car? Why is her car somewhere else? Why is her phone not working? Joe says, look at the case of Elisa Jordana. Okay. Okay, well, that is it from my side. Guys, thanks a lot for joining me. I think it's my third or fourth video today. Today's definitely been a busy day. Anyway, take care, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.